The origins of the Silithid and of the Qiraji were not really made clear until fairly recently. At first, one of the few bits of information available was the Prophecy of Cthulhu, a propaganda work written by the Qiraji prophet Scarum. The prophecy states that, after the Titans defeated the old gods and reshaped the world, the Silithid were born out of the Well of Eternity. Cthulhu then found these creatures and reshaped some of them in its image, creating the Qiraji. We also know that the two races were somehow descended from the Ahn'Qiraj, an ancient insectoid race. Later on, Bran Bronzebeard discovered that it was actually the bestial Silithid that descended from the intelligent Qiraji instead of the other way around, and he also found out that the Ahn'Qiraj were made by the old gods from something else. Ultimately, the World of Warcraft Chronicle revealed that the Ahn'Qiraj were created, along with the Faceless Ones, as physical manifestations of the Old Gods' will. Eventually, as the Old Gods were defeated by the Titans and their armies, several Ahn'Qiraj survived this devastation by hiding underground. The Faceless General Kith'ix then summoned these creatures out of hiding in order to battle the Trolls, but was, once again, defeated. During this conflict, some of the Ahn'Qiraj ventured into Ahn'Qiraj, a Titan facility housing the prison of Cthulhu. They overran its defenses and enslaved the Anubisaf and the Tol'vir they found there and used them against the Trolls. The Gurubashi Trolls, charged with fighting this group of Ahn'Qiraj, were never able to completely defeat them, but they were able to, at least temporarily, defeat their threat. These Ahn'Qiraj then settled permanently in Ahn'Qiraj and its surroundings, and, over time, due to their proximity to Cthulhu, were transformed into the modern Qiraji and Silithid. For the most part, in the time between the ancient conflict with the Gurubashi Trolls and the First War of the Shifting Sands, the Qiraji and the Silithid had lain dormant, to the point where their very existence was forgotten by most of the other races of Azeroth. Cthulhu itself seems to have had very little direct involvement in their society, as it only became aware of the existence of the Qiraji and the Silithid after they were discovered accidentally by the Night Elves. There is some evidence, however, which suggests that not all of the Qiraji were dormant during these millennia, namely the existence of Fek'lor the Martyr, a sand troll who died thousands of years ago defending Zul'Farrak from them. Since the sand trolls only existed as a separate group from the jungle trolls after the Sundering, and Fek'lor the Martyr is a sand troll, not a jungle troll, as well as the fact that the Qiraji only appeared as a separate group from the Ahn'Qiraj after the ancient war between the Trolls and the Insectoids, this means that, at least at one point, a group of Qiraji attacked Zul'Farrak and were defeated. Although they are united in service to Cthulhu and seem to share a common language, the Silithid and the Qiraji are, nonetheless, very distinct creatures. The Qiraji are an intelligent sentient species with a culture and laws of their own. From what little is known of them, they are divided into multiple castes, each with its own leader, and they are all subservient to the now deceased twin emperors, who are, in turn, subservient to Cthulhu. The castes that we know of are the Battle Guards, seemingly mostly female fighters, the Gladiators, mostly males who often occupy command roles in their military, and the Prophets. All of these castes also wear some form of distinctive clothing and/or armor. The Silithid, on the other hand, are unintelligent beasts, usually serving as manual labor and as a fighting force for the Qiraji. There are also many types of Silithid, also with different functions in their society, but they are usually considered inferior to the Qiraji. A possible exception to this are the so-called Silithid royalty, free Silithid colossi which, judging by their titles, have some form of importance in the hierarchy of Ahn'Qiraj, along with Princess Huhuran. Although what that importance is, or how it relates to the Qiraji, is unknown. After the creation of the Scarab Wall, all of the Qiraji outside of its gates were slaughtered by the Night Elves and the dragons. It's possible some of the Silithid, on the other hand, survived, and several hives were eventually built outside of Ahn'Qiraj. In the years before the opening of the gates, its magical bindings had slowly been growing weaker, and more Silithid began sneaking outside and creating more hives. It's interesting to note that no Qiraji left their city in that time. However, each Silithid hive held a crystal prism, which allowed the Qiraji to issue orders to them. The Qiraji, or at the very least the Twin Emperors, have proven able to create new obsidian destroyers. This is exceptional because, originally, the obsidian destroyers and the obsidian statues were enslaved Tol'vir transformed by Qiraji or Nerubian magic. The Twin Emperors have succeeded in creating the most powerful obsidian destroyer, named Moam, by having Vek'nilash craft a body of volcanic rock, while Vek'lor infused and fortified it with powerful magic. During the War of the Shifting Sands, the Qiraji were unable to conquer Ahn'Qiraj Crater, which they named the Godlands. While the exact reason for that is unknown, it probably has to do with Ahn'Qiraj's history and the Titanforge presence and magic in the region. However, while they couldn't conquer the land itself, they were nonetheless able to pass through it and fight the Night Elves and the Bronze Dragons in Tanaris. It's also interesting to note that the Silithid hive, belonging to the Gorishi Silithid, also appeared in the region, and the insects planned on raising a colossus to unleash upon Ahn'Qiraj. It's not entirely known what happened to the Qiraji after the defeat of Catan and the deaths of the Twin Emperors. One possible implication of the events of the two raids is that most of the Qiraji died trying to protect Catan, which seemed to be the accepted canon until Cataclysm. Nowadays, it is known that at least some Qiraji have survived, but it's very likely that the deaths of their leaders have severely disorganized their society, and they had little to no part in the Old God's armies during the Cataclysm. It's been stated that, since the arrival of Deathwing, the Qiraji have not been seen, and, though they remain contained within Ahn'Qiraj, they are still a threat. The Silithid, on the other hand, are more or less just as active as before the opening of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. In fact, somewhat more so, since the aforementioned plot to attack Ahn'Qiraj Crater began after the Cataclysm.